Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, March 7th. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. How are we all today? Yep, getting everything set up. Every time I start the show, I kind of have to move the chat around and do all sorts of little things that you don't see, but you see my eyes moving. Yep, hello. There we go. The chat's being very strange today. There we go. All right. It had you sort of horizontal. I hate when it does that. Stop it. It keeps trying to. Stop it. It keeps trying to throw the chat box as it's hard to explain, but it keeps trying to throw you as part of this larger thing that is annoying me and getting in my way. There we go. Oh, it did it again. Stop it. There we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. All right. I'm going to get Tik Tok rolling here. You can roll update, go live. There we go. As always, news day seemed slow and then it got busy. It seems to do that a lot. All right. There we go. But whoops. Hello. There we go. All right. Welcome all. How are we today? I am well. Sasha. Oh, I didn't give Sasha water. Oh, God. Here we go again. All right. I'm going to pour water for my dog as we start the show. Because we know that's coming. We know that's coming. All right. There we go. All right. Oops. All right. Had to give the dog a little bit of water here. Otherwise, we know what happens next. We know what happens next. If I don't give the dog water at the beginning of the show, it's mayhem. Forgot to give her water, so oh boy. Oh boy. Woo. My viewers can now send team gifts to you and get extra member values. I have no idea what that is, but apparently TikTok says you can now send some kind of team member gifts. I don't know. Check them out. Could be fun. I have no idea. Anyway, hello all. Hello Jen. Hello Joe. Succeed. Did I miss anything while I was away? I did. Elizabeth, Mark, thank you guys. Thank you all for the gifts. Thank you, Yorabi. Anyway, how are we doing today, guys? A good amount of news today. Exactly. Welcome, Boppo in Gothenburg, Sweden. NATO member Sweden. Sweden, it happened today. Sweden became a NATO member. That's our top story we're going to talk about. Sweden is now the 32nd member of NATO. Very cool news. Ha ha. Ha ha. Russia's not happy. But oh well, that's what happens. Play the dictator. People don't like it. Oh well. Anyway, thank you, Crazy. Who else is that? Thanks, Mustard. And who's doing? Oh, Patty. Thank you, Patty, for the lights. Anyway, so welcome, guys. I'm gonna get rolling. Thank you, Cerveza. Thank you, Mustard. Oh, see, there we go. She hears the neighbors in the hall. Hey! Get over here. Jesus Christ. This is why I yell at the dog. It is like having a child. She's half terrier, so she knows better, but she just doesn't. One moment. Get over here. Get over here. Get over here. Get over here. Get in here. No. Get in here. I'm about to pick you. I'm going to pick you up and show you to everybody. That's what I'm going to do. Fine. She hates it when I pick her up. So I'm going to show her to everybody anyway. There, see? That's your punishment. You got to say hi to everybody. Yeah, all fluffy and innocent looking. Oh, thank you for the hat. All fluffy and innocent. All right? Okay. Please be quiet. Try to be quiet. Where are you going? Where do you think you're going? Get back here. Get over here. Oh, right back to the front door. Don't you even. Right back to the front door again. She hears any neighbor she smells and likes and goes crazy. Oh my God. She's not stressing. She's stressing me. She's doing fine. But she just goes crazy when she hears the neighbors. And I'm like, dog, you're literally dog, you're 14 years old. Like, grow up already. Oh my God. Thank you, Larissa. So anyway, yes, welcome all. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, where I report to you live with my dog. Thank you, Ava. From Washington, D.C. Thank you, Elle. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Other news as it pops up. Isn't really any other news tonight, I would say, outside like election news or anything else. But it's, oh my God. Any case, so welcome, guys. Today is day 740 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. The way you guys know the show works. Thank you, Madashi. Thank you, Charles. Who else we got here? Larissa. The way the show works is I go through the news of the day. That's right, Aflac. I almost forgot. I go through the news of the day and try to pick the stories that I think are most sort of elucidate or illuminating of what's going on, to try to give you the best sense of what's going on with the war. And then we do Q&A, although sometimes I grab the Q&A while we're doing this at the same time. So, you know. Oh, you're in danger there, though. Oh, sorry. Don't bring up the... All right, yeah, Israel Chai, don't do it. A, don't get us off topic. And B, don't go writing things multiple times. And C, don't do caps. But also, we're talking about Ukraine today, so don't do it. All right, guys, so let's jump in here. We are still doing our battery fundraiser. We are trying to raise money for 2 batteries, chargers for the Ukrainian military. Thank you, Elizabeth. I didn't check with Vlad at what our number was today. Yesterday, we were at 700 and so. Okay, you're getting a little 5-minute mute because you're not listening. Yeah, I wouldn't mute them for the whole day. Well, I wouldn't have muted them for the whole live, but I would at least muted them for a good 10 minutes. That's fine. Either way is fine. You warned them. Battery fundraiser. I hate when people do that. Thank you, Fred. So yes, we're raising money for the Ukrainian military to get 2 batteries for them to use for their walkie-talkies, for their computers when they're out in the field. You can donate via my friend Vlad's PayPal. We've been using Vlad, doing this for 2 years now. You can find it on YouTube. Just go to aravosis.com. First thing that comes up will be a description of Vlad's PayPal information. That's what you will use. For you guys on TikTok, go to my profile, look for the little red triangles pointing down to the Linktree link. Click the Linktree link, and again, first thing that comes up will be Vlad's PayPal information. You did. Thank you, Tom. Very nice of you. I appreciate that. Vlad does not need money. Vlad is collecting money for the Ukrainian military to buy 2 batteries. Big honkin' batteries for the field. The military has specifically asked for them. So we're working with Harkovomir, the charity we work with, to get them 2 batteries. Thank you, Zero Dark. All right, let's get moving here. Thank you, Marsha. Marsha. Thank you, LWD. So big news today, thank you, Lori, is Sweden. The goal is 2,500. Sweden has officially joined NATO. Thanks, Arifa. So it worked pretty much the way I thought it worked. Thank you, Lori. They were spinning this originally, thank you, Martin, that Sweden wasn't going to be a member until next week with the flag raising ceremony. Thank you, Allie and Jane. But in fact, it was... I had read sort of NATO's website, and they said that basically as soon as Sweden sends in its formal document signing that, yes, we want to join, you've joined. Well, the Swedish Prime Minister and I believe the Foreign Minister came to Washington today to turn the documents in person to the U.S. State Department, and that was the official, legally, that's what makes it happen. So Sweden joined NATO today. Very cool. So 32nd member of NATO, welcome. You are now part of the alliance. This is really a big defeat for Vladimir Putin. The Russians do not like NATO because basically NATO was formed, well, I'd say 2 reasons. 1, because of Russia, the Soviet threat. But 2, also because of, thank you, Boy Mom, thank you, Big John. Also because it was, I seem to remember this, that NATO was also intended to bring the European, same as the European Union really, bring the European countries together in an alliance to stop them from fighting each other, right? France and Germany. A lot of wars. I'm not as up on this as some of you Europeans are, but the Brits too, but the French and the Germans especially, a lot of wars. And the whole idea of NATO was if you have a big defensive alliance, they're protecting each other, they're not attacking each other. So anyway, big deal. It was bad for Putin. Yeah, this happened all because of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The poll numbers, I looked them up the other day. The poll numbers for Finland were even worse because Finland joined NATO as well as a result of Putin invading Ukraine. Finland's poll numbers were like in the 20-something in terms of support for joining NATO. Before the war was like 20%, 25%, 28%. After the war, it was like 70, 80%. Sweden, I think support for NATO was a little more, maybe 30, 40 percentile, but it jumped to, again, 70 percentile. Thank you, Lara, once the Russians invaded Ukraine. Because basically, and I will show you again on the map of maps, Ava's wonderful. Ava, remind me, Ava, I think you're Swedish, aren't you? I will admit, I sometimes get confused with you guys up there. I always remember you're Scandinavian, but sometimes I forget who's Swedish or Norwegian. I think Ava's Swedish, but Ava did this wonderful little map showing us, and basically, this is all, you've got a lot of European countries, Ukraine, you've got Russia, really huge up here. Look at this, huge 800-mile border with Russia in Finland, 1,200, okay, you are Swedish. Oh, actually, I'm looking at your name now, too, with the blue and yellow, exactly. So you've got Finland, 800-mile border with Russia, 1,200 kilometers. Sweden does not have a border with Russia, but Sweden is very close, right? I mean, Sweden's hop, skip, and a jump from Russia. Sweden also has to worry about Kaliningrad, Russia's territory that's right here. The sea that everybody shares with the Russians, the Baltic Sea, because the Russian St. Petersburg is right here. So, bottom line is, Putin invaded Ukraine. He freaked the hell out of the Finns and the Swedes, and they gave up hundreds of years of what's the word? Not impartiality, of non-aligned status to join NATO. So big freaking deal. Very excited. I know the next iteration will go with painting the water. It is a good map, though. It is a very good map. But yeah, painting the water. Or I don't know, Ava, we can see. Maybe I can. Neutrality. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Neutrality. All right, let's go on. More news. 1 second here. It's a good amount of news today. So this is interesting. So you know how Zelensky a few weeks ago fired the top general in charge of the war, General Zaluzhny? And it was kind of a big hoo-ha because Zelensky had sat Zaluzhny down, reportedly told him, I'm replacing you. And, okay. I mean, I think it's just to delineate the water, probably, Ava. Sorry, Ava. Ava is the wonderful person, she's over on TikTok, who did our maps for us. I mean, well, there's the first map of Ukraine that's literally a t-shirt I got off of Amazon. My sister got it off of Amazon, actually. And the second one, Ava drew, which is fabulous. It's just the water is black, so I think the water being a different color would help. Otherwise, I mean, it's an amazing map. I mean, she did this by hand or on a computer, which is just amazing. So yeah, I think we just do all the water is a different color, including Black Sea in here, and it'll be perfect. Thank you, Ava. Very sweet of you. So we were saying Zaluzhny. So this is interesting. So Zelensky, a couple weeks ago, sits down with the top general in charge of the war, thank you, Bryce, and tells him, I'm letting you go, right? Thank you, Sharon, for the gift as well, and says, I'm letting you go. And Zaluzhny reportedly says, no, I'm not gonna stop. And very creepy for democracy, not a very good thing. Zaluzhny finally agrees to leave. Zelensky replaces him with this new guy, Syrskyi, I guess is his name. And we now find out today that Zaluzhny is being appointed as Ukraine's new ambassador to Britain, which is interesting, to the UK. Now, that's a big deal. The UK, in some ways, you could argue that the UK is Ukraine's strongest, or I should say biggest ally in a way. I think the Brits have been really outspoken in support of the Ukrainians. Thank you, Ellie. More than we've been. I mean, we've been their top ally in terms of money, okay? But in terms of outspokenness, it's been the Brits, certainly the Baltic states and Poland too. But in terms of like the powerhouses, because Britain is also one of the huge powerhouse economies, the Brits have been really out there, I'd say, more than us in terms of wanting to support Ukraine, right? You know, Biden draws the line, but Biden gets worried more about, you know, crossing lines and this kind of stuff, right? Thank you, Pedro. Well, so getting this job as the ambassador to Britain is a big deal for Zaluzhny, the outgoing Ukrainian defense minister. Or defense, I should say, not defense minister, but the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the top general. Having said that, I will tell you from my experience here in the U.S., when you appoint somebody who you're having problems with, which Zelensky was with Zaluzhny, thank you, Pam Pam, when you appoint them to a job abroad, you're getting rid of them. Now, he's getting rid of him in a very good job. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, James. But he's still getting rid of him. I'm just telling you, it's my spider sense and my 35 years in politics. Zelensky's getting rid of the guy. That's why he's sending him abroad. Thank you, Big Hawk. I would also say, thank you, Sean, that, a top general, well, let me put it this way. Look, there is also an argument to be made for Zaluzhny getting this job, right? Thank you, Sean. Thank you, El. Because he was their top general. He knows the military inside out. He has the alliances. He knows all of the other leaders and certainly the other defense ministers of the other countries. So this is a good thing that he's going to Britain. But again, don't forget there is some palace intrigue here with Zelensky basically getting rid of Zaluzhny. He is. Mrs. Zelensky. So Mrs. Zelensky. So tonight in America, and I'm not going to watch because it is boring. I may watch a little bit, but it's boring as hell. President Biden is going to be giving his State of the Union address tonight. It is a speech the president gives every year, constitutionally required to give to Congress, talking about the state of our nation, where things stand. Problem is, it gets really freaking boring.
It just goes on for over an hour. It's always boring. I mean, it's important. It's important sort of politically and for history and tradition, whatever. Well, Biden invited to the speech, thank you, Tom, Mrs. Zelensky. In Ukrainian, they say Zelenskaya, but it's too hard in English. So Mrs. Zelensky and Mrs. Navalny, which also would be like an Aya or something, to the speech. So the wife of Zelensky and the wife of the Russian opposition leader who was murdered, right, by Putin. Well, both of them turned Biden down. First of all, and this was a mistake by the White House people, and thank you, Annie. So mistake by the White House people. The Ukrainians don't like Navalny. And not only do they not like, they sort of viscerally dislike Navalny. Navalny, the opposition leader in Russia who died, who Putin killed, was not great on the Ukrainian stuff. I mean, he sort of came around on a lot of it. He was bad on Crimea, saying, well, Crimea belongs to Russia. That's the territory in southern Ukraine that the Russians stole when they first started this war in 2014. So the Ukrainians hate Navalny. I mean, the Ukrainians I know and I deal with online, they viscerally hate Navalny. So asking Mrs. Zelensky to sit next to Mrs. Navalny was weird. I just think that was weird. That was not a great idea. Second problem for both women, you might want to be careful how closely you are seen tied to the American administration right now. So first of all, Mrs. Zelensky, I guarantee you, said no because Mrs. Navalny was going to be there, was the thought. I guarantee you. Second problem, it's not clear Biden's going to win in November, the election. Our elections are in November. If you're Ukraine, but also, I mean, less so for Navalny, but if you're Ukraine, do you want to be careful how closely you're seen as tied to President Biden right now? Thank you, West Coast. Potentially, I mean, and especially with Donald Trump. Think about this. I mean, Trump is obviously the guy running against him for president. And Trump has I would say politics in general right now, but Trump especially, has a history of basically saying on any issue, well, what does Joe Biden think? And if Joe Biden thinks it, I think the opposite. I think a lot of Donald Trump's views on Ukraine are clearly because he's been corrupted by Putin, clearly, okay? I mean, we know that. There's some weird relationship with Putin and Trump. He's corrupted by him. But it's also, well, Biden supports Ukraine, so I have to oppose Biden, right? And Trump does the same thing with Obama. He hated Obama because Obama made fun of him in a speech. So everything Obama supported, Biden had to be the Trump had to be the opposite. So if you're Ukrainians and you're worried about Trump winning, you probably are starting to worry about being seen as too closely tied to Biden because Trump will come in and say, well, you're Biden's friend, I don't like you, right? Now, let me give a caveat to that. I still think this was a big mistake for the Ukrainians. I still think it's a huge mistake for the Ukrainians. This is considered a huge political speech every year. It gets massive news coverage. It's a big deal, okay? If you're Ukraine right now, you need to be in the American news. Thank you, Dinan. You need to be in the American mind. You need to remind people you exist. Currently, you don't exist for Americans anymore. Biden's people bring it up every once in a while. I mean, he's doing a terrible job of telling people about Ukraine. I mean, he'll do it tonight, thank God, I assume. But otherwise, he does it every once in a while. Thank you, Vicky. Doesn't do it very often at all. You're in the news, but you're in the news for people like me. You're not in the news like you were before. You need Mrs. Zelensky there to be the, waving standard bearer. Everyone, by the way, you kind of force Republicans into a position too, because if Mrs. Zelensky is there, do they applaud or do they not applaud? If they don't applaud, it looks really bad. So in the end, I think the Ukrainians made a mistake by not coming. Especially because Mrs. Navalny isn't coming anyway. Thank you, Crystals, for the gifts. So anyway, there's that. A little bit more here. What else is going on? Macron made some interesting comments today. Thank you, Ellie. So the French president made some comments today. Thank you, Benjamin. That are consistent with... The French president clearly has decided that he wants to be kind of the leader of Europe. It's very interesting. And he's trying to be sort of the, I would say, somewhat hawkish leader on Ukraine. Hawkish meaning a little more conservative on defense type issues, right? And it's very interesting because France has been really bad about helping out Ukraine. they've done a few big things. They provided artillery, we talked about the other day, some armored personnel carriers that were very good, and certainly some cruise missiles that were very good that the French gave, which is, I mean, again, great. That was great. But in total numbers, the French have given something like $500 to $800 million. That's it. Versus, and dollars to euros is pretty close. Thank you, Mustard. But the French, so imagine the French giving around $500 to $800 million. The Germans have given $19 billion with a B. So over 10 times as much, right? I mean, France has been really kind of pathetic in the aid they've given Ukraine, other than they gave some very specific things like the cruise missiles that were a big deal. But overall numbers, horrible, horrible France's commitment to Ukraine. So it's a little odd. It's good, but it's odd that France's president is now trying to take the lead in Europe for defending Ukraine. Having said that, I'm not going to knock the guy. I mean, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Dawn, for the gifts. Because it's still, we want European leaders standing up and defending Ukraine and calling on other European leaders to do more. So, I'm not going to criticize him for it because this is good. It's just weird. Maybe that's it. Jeff is saying Macron wants to be the next EU president. Maybe that's it. There is some kind of, he is clearly doing I want to be Europe's leader, but I was thinking he wanted to do it from France. You're right. Maybe he wants to do it from Brussels or Strasbourg or wherever the EU president is. But he's up to something. So anyway, today he got some opposition parties together who were all basically pro-Putin. It's kind of, I'm kind of curious why he got them together, but he got the opposition parties together live and met with them. And, I actually jumped ahead. I've got this story for I'll pull it up here. Where's my Macron story? Here it is, Macron. He warned that the West may have to step in to save Ukraine if Russia makes a breakthrough on the Eastern Front. He also produced maps to show opposition leaders, points of potential Russian breakthroughs towards Odessa and Kyiv. He told them there should be no more red lines on his country's involvement in the conflict. Thank you, 6 Evo. I'll get to that in a sec. What he means is there should be no more limits to France's involvement, for France to say, well, we would provide this, but we wouldn't provide this, right? Right? We'd provide one, we wouldn't provide the other kind of thing, which is what the U.S. has been doing, which is what Germany is doing on the Taurus missiles. We're doing it on ATACMS long-range missiles, right? Everybody else, let me know. So one guy, Corey, is saying that my signal is cutting out a bit on TikTok. If for the rest of you, the signal is not cutting in and out, Corey, you may want to leave and come back because sometimes that fixes it when things are going weird. I always like to check because sometimes, okay, it's just you, Corey. Yeah, leave and maybe come back and see if that connects it. It could also just be your internet connection total. So, sorry. Anyway, glad to know it. Thank you, guys. So, very interesting. What Macron is saying is that if Ukraine starts losing, and Ukraine starts losing big cities like Odessa in the south, or Kyiv, or at risk of losing Kyiv, the capital, then Europe is going to have to think of stepping in. What is interesting about this is just a couple days ago, Macron was talking about sending European troops to Ukraine. And remember, he put it out there as, well, we're discussing it, and he freaked out the Germans, and he freaked out the Americans, and he freaked out the Italians, and everybody kind of went, no, we're not. And the Germans even got pissed at him, like, why are you doing this, right? Now we're seeing Macron continue to do this. So I think he may very well want to be the new president of the EU or take over the EU presidency. But I think he's also, it's good, but he's also kind of trying to warn Europe that if Ukraine falls or Ukraine starts to fall, we're going to have to get involved. Thank you, Crystal. And you're seeing the Czech president do the same thing. Pavel, he's doing the exact same thing. He's president, right? I asked this before. I always forget. He's not prime minister. I think he's president. Pavel of Czech Republic. He's doing the same thing. He's getting much more. He's gotten, by the way, he as well initially came out and said, no, we won't. Thank you, Tom. No, we won't provide troops. And then 2 days later, he turned around and said, well, we could provide troops in non-combat ways. So this is very interesting. He's president. Okay, thank you, David. It's very interesting what's going on with this in Europe. I mean, I'm glad to see it. Thank you, Adventures. I will say, as a student of recent history, at least, I think America is going to look back at this, and I hope this isn't a bad thing that's happening, because from an American perspective, what's happening is Trump, really, and the Republicans forced Europe to unify. because we cut off all American aid to Ukraine. All American aid's been cut off. The MAGA, Donald Trump had MAGA do it, and MAGA in Congress, all the Republicans did it. So we're not giving any aid to Ukraine right now. That is forcing the Europeans to basically confront the fact that a resurgent Russia could eventually go to war with all of them. And they're starting to unify, and they're starting to take the lead. That's good in a way, because we want the Europeans to step up. But if you're an American foreign policy guy, if you're an American policy expert, you really want America involved. You don't want the Europeans making their own decisions, because guess what happens? When China invades Taiwan, Europe goes, you know what? We don't want to help. America, we know you're going to war with China. We think we're going to sit this one out, right? The more that there is sort of this independence between America and Europe on foreign policy, and we're not doing it together, the greater chance there is of Europe not being with us in some future war we need. And it's honestly Trump's fault at this point, but it's also the Republicans overall, because they've gone along with it. But I am glad to at least see the Europeans stepping up, because you don't have a choice. You cannot rely on America anymore. And it's really sad, but I don't think anybody in the world can rely on us anymore. It's very sad. We are one MAGA presidency away from every single promise that has been made. You know, every single promise that's been made it will be broken. Thank you, Crystals. A little bit more here. So more threats from the Russians. So this is another interesting thing. Check this out. Another interesting thing. So in addition to Macron, thank you, Courtney, the Russians are threatening war again. Clearly something happened in the last week, and I'm not sure what. It could be this thing about European troops, going to Ukraine, but first you had, thank you, Bob Dahl. First you had Putin giving his big speech of the year to the legislature and to the parliament, and talking about, we've got nukes, this kind of, basically threatening to nuke Europe. Then you had the Russian defense minister. Then you had threatening nuclear war. The Russian spy chief threatening nuclear war. Now you've got a senior defense official, the head of Russia's army's military academy, threatening war. They're doing this on purpose, guys, and they're doing it at a senior level. My point is, something's going on here. Putin decided at the top that he wanted all of it, and you're probably going to see Lavrov do it too, who's their foreign minister. Thank you, Jeddah. That he wanted all of their top people to come out and say, oh my God, we're about to go to war with Europe. Oh my God. Now, to me, that means they're worried. They are trying to freak out Biden. They're trying to freak out Scholz in Germany. They're trying to scare them into not doing something. I have a feeling that, oh, sorry, Six Evo, I forgot about your question. I'll get to that next. I have a feeling that the Russians heard something. They know something's going on. They're spying. We're not aware of it, but they are, and they're trying to short circuit it. And frankly, Macron talking about this stuff might even be a sign of something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But there's something going on for Putin to now have told all of his top officials, make lots of nuclear threats against the West. Like the guy today, I mean, it wasn't nuclear directly, but it was. The risk of Ukraine escalating into a worldwide war is significantly increasing. The risk of it becoming a large-scale war in Europe. He went on to say, the likelihood of our state, Russia, being purposefully drawn into the new conflicts is significantly increasing. He's full of crap. I mean, there's just like a 0% chance of us going to war with Russia right now. Thank you, Joe. Well, more than zero now, because Russia's getting more militaristic. But they're up to something. Like I said, I'm not sure what it is yet. They're up to something. But the Russians, they're imperialistic, genocidal, invade their neighbors, steal their land, put dictatorships in place, oppress them, murder their own people. Tens of millions of Russians, the Russians murdered during the Soviet years. They murdered millions of Ukrainians. I mean, this is what they do. They do pose a risk of war with us, but for them to be throwing this around, they're basically, what they're actually claiming, thank you, Dark Phoenix, they're claiming that we're getting ready to go to war with them, and nobody thinks that. They're worried about something. They're worried about something. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I mean, and we along with Europe are the beacon of freedom, and the Russians can't stand it. That's part of it too. I mean, the Russians, as we've talked about before, they're narcissistic and they're insecure, and they can't stand the fact that, I mean, look at Europe and America. I mean, Asia becoming that way too, but Europe and Asia, I mean, Europe and America. People look up, culturally, people look up to us, right? They want to go study in Europe. They want to go study in America. They look at our fashion. They look at our culture. They look at our food. I mean, right? They want to go on vacation there. They want to live there. They want to immigrate there. Who immigrates to Russia? I mean, people do, but it's kind of sad when you immigrate to Russia. You know what I mean? You'd rather immigrate to America or to Europe or the EU, right? I mean, the EU has all sorts of immigration problems because people want to live there. I mean, that's one thing. We have, you know why we have problems at our southern border with Mexico? Or not just, and it's not Mexicans, but it's everyone crossing the southern border. Because people like us, right? People like you in Europe. They want to be, Canada too, by the way. People like us. They don't like Russia. And the Russians know it, and it drives them crazy. It drives them absolutely crazy. But so I think you have to think with any of these Russian threats, you've always got to think of the psyche and the mindset behind there and that sort of weird insecurity. There is something just very weird with sort of the Russian government mind. In any case, British Defense Secretary is in Kyiv today for a meeting with Zelensky, announced more British support. Let me find this here. Including another 125 million pounds of investment. I'm going to guess that's $140 billion, or excuse me, $140 million or so. It'll fund more than 10,000 drones. Artillery updates. So you know how the Czech Republic has been, collecting basically donations from around Europe to buy around 800,000 artillery shells for Ukraine, which is a huge deal, which is great. And I just got a little more information today via the Financial Times that Ukraine's requirement, just a little more data on what Ukraine needs. Ukraine's requirement for artillery shells is 2.5 million shells a year, according to the Ukrainian government. That's about 7,000 shells a day. The EU has only sent about 400,000. This is not of the Czech request. This is of the original plan. Europe announced a plan about a year ago. They were going to procure a million artillery shells for Ukraine. They were only able to procure 400,000. But now the Czech government has found another 800,000 that a number of European countries have gotten together to chip in money. And they think they've almost got all the money they need, which is great. And the shells could start arriving in the next few weeks. But a little bit more on Ukraine's needs. So Ukraine needs 2.5 million shells a year. The demand from the Ukrainian war has driven up the prices of artillery shells per round, so per shell, from $700 to $1,200 per shell to $2,800 to $3,200. So that is 4 times. It's driven the price up by around 4 times. So, which is sad, but what do? There's only so many shells you've got. Lithuanian intelligence. So Lithuanian intelligence said today that Russia has the resources for another 2 years of fighting. High oil prices, sanctions evasion, and state investment are providing Russia with enough resources to fight on in Ukraine at the current intensity for at least 2 years, according to Lithuanian intelligence. NATO is having an exercise take place, a military exercise called Nordic Response, in northern Norway, Sweden, and Finland, involving 20,000 soldiers from 13 NATO countries right now. And finally, and this is just classic Russia, by the way, finally, the Russians are having their big elections in a week. So not this weekend, but next weekend. And what do the Russians do? They summoned the U.S. ambassador. I knew the U.S. ambassador was a woman. I knew it. I did my TikTok video on this, and I mentioned the U.S. ambassador being a male. And in the back of my head, after I posted the video, I thought, is he a woman? It's a woman. I think it's a woman, Lynn Tracy. So the Russians summoned the U.S. ambassador to lecture her about election interference and saying, you Americans better not interfere in our elections next week. I mean, really? Really? The Russians have been interfering nonstop in American elections since 2016, in European elections. Even Donald Trump's own national security team concluded that Russia interfered in the 2016 election in order to basically steal the election for Trump, and that they were already interfering back when Trump was in office for 2020 as well. So classic Russia, like I've told you guys, there is this whole weird sort of bravado thing they do where they think it's funny, I guess, to like, we're trying to interfere in the American elections. Let's interfere let's invite the American ambassador and lecture him that he better not, projection, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Furtive. Yeah, that you better not interfere in our election. So anyway, it's classic Russian projection. Anyway, all right, guys, please keep the gifts coming. You know how this works. 6Evo, I'm sorry, your question. Thoughts on extremists attacking large gatherings in Moscow? How will Russia respond? Will they blame the West? You got to give me more than that. I don't know what that's talking about. I have no idea what that's talking about, especially because that's a quote. You got it from somewhere. Are you talking about give me more. You don't have to pay for it, obviously, but write more. Are you talking about a threat the Russian government is claiming with the election coming up, which I'm guessing might be the case? Before I respond to it, tell me more. Thank you, Richard. In any case, real quick, remember too, I've got our auctions we've got our auctions over on Discord, discord.aravosis.com. Thank you, Joe, for the gift. And let me actually pull this up. Live chat. And I see Johnny as well. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for support for Ukraine. You bring such a cogent and articulate perspective. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Chazak. So we have our auctions. Don't forget our auctions. We do auctions every week or two on Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. It's a Discord community I've got where we raise money for Ukraine. Half the money goes to Ukraine for all of our various projects we do for the Ukrainian military, Ukrainian humanitarian aid, and the other half goes to support my work because I do this full time. So that's why I bother you guys for the gifts, because it literally helps me pay the bills. But among other things, thank you, Jen, I will show you one of the auction, probably the coolest auction item I think we have this week is, thank you, Timothy, is a real Ukrainian camouflage net. These are, the Discord link is not out of date. The Discord link doesn't work on TikTok. TikTok likes to play games, so the TikTok link doesn't work. You need to type it into a web browser. It should be discord.aravosis.com. Somebody else try the link on your browser and make sure it works, but it should. I tried it recently. Camouflage nets. So we have been raising money for camouflage nets for Ukraine. Thank you, Janice. And at the request of the Ukrainian government, they tell us exactly what they need. Thank you, Luis. And we've been making the nets over in Ukraine, or some charities were working. It does work. Thank you, Jason. That's what I thought. Yeah, there is a link on Discord that doesn't work via Linktree, and it's a Discord problem, I think. So just go to discord.aravosis.com, or if you're on Discord, just search for Aravosis. In any case, we've been making these nets, and the people who have been making the nets made a couple extra ones for us. Thank you, Baby Shoe. Have been making some extra ones for us to auction off. This is the last one I've got at the moment. I don't know whether we're going to get any more, but I didn't even know I still had this one. I looked in my Ukraine box and saw that we still had the net. This one is it's a summer net. You can tell by the dark green. It's about 8 or 9 feet by 3 feet. That's a little less than 3 meters by 1 meter, basically. The real nets, and this was made for us. This is a camouflage net. This is for, hi, where am I? This is for throwing over tanks and trucks and artillery pieces and everything else in Ukraine, made expressly for the Ukrainian military to hide their weapons. So we have been making the nets for the Ukrainian military at their request. And we had the folks who actually make the nets make us a few small ones for you guys. Thank you, Chazak. Because the real net, meaning it's the same net, but the real net is like 15 feet by 27 feet, which would be like 5 meters by 9 meters. And I just thought that might be a little too big. It would be very funny of a gift for you all, but it might be a little too crazy. So we've got a smaller one here. Thank you, Running, for the gift. But lots of other things, too, on the Discord. Please check it out, the auctions. But as I said, half of the... I know, I've got the picture. I don't have it handy. I have a picture of a previous one that was great. Your net, Mustard. That's right, of course. Thank you, Hedge. I had a picture at my mom's house with the spring version of the net that has a little more light green woven in it. And the spring version I had on my mom's grass, and in the pictures, you almost couldn't see it. It was, I mean, I put it on the grass just because I wanted to spread it out to get a good picture for the auction. And when I took the picture, I was like, holy crap. I mean, it literally, you'd look, and if you'd kind of have to double take and go, oh my God, it blended in with the grass. So kind of amazing how effective this is once you step back like 20 feet. Thank you, boy mom. It was really interesting. You're getting an error into Discord? Well, we'll have to ask, again, do not, you're doing it on a website via the web, discord.aravosis.com. I will pull it up on my end too, but it should work. Tried a few times. The fossils are good. Thank you. I've got them displayed in my case, but it should work. I have it. Like I said, I tested it the other day and somebody else just tested it right here. And actually we do have a ghillie suit. Colonel Mustard got, and I think he got it for a song, even though Mustard, of course, is like our big patron, so I will never criticize his auction acumen. Yeah, it works. It's working for me right now. It totally works. Yep. Just pulled it up. Discord.aravosis.com. It's fine. It also works on the web. But we do have a ghillie suit that Mustard got. I was auctioning it off around Christmas. It is the coolest freaking thing. It was, well, the hat I've got one of the hats that I kept, one of the, for the helmets, but it's an entire suit, jacket and pants you put on. That's all the camouflage material, and it's for snipers. I wish you could post pictures here, Mustard. It's the coolest freaking thing. I mean, it's so freaking cool. That one I thought was amazing. And that one, it went okay. I thought it was going to go for more. That one went okay. To me, I saw that one and was like, oh, I want that one. Except that I have nowhere to display it, and, I don't need more stuff here. Yeah, that's true. Live duet if you've got it handy. That's true. It's a very cool one. It's a very cool one, yeah. Anyway, it was, even putting it on was warm, I noticed. Yeah, it did have some heat. Anyway, I have never attended the State of the Union, no. I mean, that's still kind of, even though it's boring, it's kind of a hot ticket, So wait, 6 Evo was giving a little more background here. Let me see, and then I've got Unify's question 2. Hang on. So Evo, you were saying it's in the Discord. Okay, but I haven't looked at the Discord today, or I haven't looked at that on it today. Evie put in the Ukraine chat. It's from the State Department travel. Oh, U.S. Embassy in Moscow said Thursday that it was aware of imminent plans by extremists to target public gatherings in the Russian capital over the next 2 days. Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea what that is. I mean, that could be anything. But that could be anything. That could be Putin actually using right-wing thugs to basically cause havoc and rally the public for it. Because Putin, it is widely believed Putin blew up some apartment buildings at the beginning of his tenure in office 24 years ago in order to basically freak out the Russian public and get them unified to support him. So I would not be surprised if these guys are basically Putin people Putin, I'm calling them, people that Putin, hired to go out there and just raise hell. It could be anything, but it could very well just be that too. So adjusting the brightness a little bit on YouTube. It's a little brighter. Unify is asking, what happens with the Wagner group? Are they still active in the assault? No, they are active in Africa. They're reconstituting them as part of the Russian military. They are very active in Africa. They changed the name to the Africa Corps, which was funny because it's the same name the Germans used for their troops fighting in Africa in World War II, which was very funny. I mean, it's not funny at all, but it's ironic that Russia would choose that. Yeah, right, Corps with a K, exactly, Corps with a K. But they're fighting in Africa now, yeah. And they the same they, right? Oh, Baja, you're going to be very disappointed when the moderators kick you off. I have a very nuanced view on Israel and Gaza that neither side's going to like. Both sides have dirty hands. 75 years of Palestinian terrorism, 75 years of Jews defending themselves, but also being a little obnoxious at times. So, both have unclean hands as far as I'm concerned. So, which, by the way, I find the Israelis much more willing to go along with me on that than the Palestinians. Or I should say the Palestinian defenders, because usually it's not even a Palestinian. Usually it's a white guy or gal who's trying to, be more Palestinian than Palestinian. But, we don't have a choice but to stay. We can't stay out of stuff. I mean, no, because Junie said we've got to stay out of it. We can't stay out of stuff. The world is a dangerous place. We can't stay out because it's going to happen anyway. It's kind of like saying there's lots of crime in the neighborhood. Let's just defund the police and stay out of it. Well, how do you do that? How do you do that? Things are going to happen anyway. You've got to either be prepared for them or at least try to influence them. Malayathos says, if Wagner is an Africa Corp now, or core, what is the Internet Research Agency up to? Did they rebrand? We have not heard a lot about them. So the Internet Research Agency is the group that Russia used to interfere in the 2016 elections back in the U.S. in Hillary versus Trump the first time. And it was a Prigozhin operation. So Prigozhin, who's the guy that was running the Wagner group, right? Russia's military operation, I should say mercenary operation in Ukraine. And then Putin had him murdered because Prigozhin launched a coup against Putin, remember? So I have not heard what's happened to the Internet Research Agency. I don't know what's going on with them. I mean, clearly Russia has not given up interfering in elections. We know that. Somebody's saying here, I saw that they were part of the Russian military as well in a smaller part. I thought they got, for some reason, thank you, Jason, I'm remembering something about them not existing anymore, but that wouldn't be totally true because, of course, they still exist, right? It's like the KGB not existing. The KGB doesn't exist anymore, but of course, it's not like Russia just closed everything and said, we're no longer going to spy and murder people, right? They just gave it a different name. So, and 60 vote, do you think Russia will blame the West? Oh, yeah. They'll look. Even if Putin is planning his own little crazy attack in Moscow, getting extremists to basically scare the Russians into voting him an even higher number of people, supporting him in the upcoming election, Putin will blame us, of course. Yeah, and part of the reason to blame the West is you're trying to clamp down on any domestic opposition, right? Oh, look at the opposition, right? So you get violent extremists, you're Putin. You hire some violent extremists to go crazy in Moscow. You go, look at the opposition. They're crazy. They're violent. Support me. I'm for order. The opposition's crazy people. Don't support them, right? So you build support for yourself. You take support away from the opposition because you mark them as being evil and violent. Then you also, what was the second part? I'm trying to think. I knew my dog was making noise, and I knew. Oh, it's that time. The neighbor's home and opening his curtains and putting his lights on, and somebody doesn't like that. Every time. Wait, see, there we go again. She's on the ottoman looking at him. There she is. Every day, I told you I go through this where the dog sees the neighbor come. I don't know if you can see her. Oops. The dog sees the neighbor. You can't. The dog sees the neighbor come home and gets very upset. It's very funny. But it's 14 years of this, guys, and she still gets upset when she sees the guy. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jetta. So Putin's doing it he's also doing it to basically demonize just the rest of the opposition in general. He's going to say, look, they're coming from, hello. You're lying. Make comments like that and you get muted for the show. Bye-bye. You can go back tomorrow. In any case, he's trying to demonize the opposition. Yeah, he will. He'll blame it on them. What else we got here? What else we got? The places are close enough that he comes home and either he opens his curtains or he turns on the lights and she sees the lights goes on and she freaks out. When I was in New York, I've got pictures from New York of her. I was at 22nd floor of a high rise. The high rise next to us, that wasn't that close. it was pretty far away. And, the windows are like this big if you're looking across the way. She would see people in the windows and start barking at them. And I kid you not, because you'd see, I'm 20, I've got to see if I will look really quick and see if I've got a picture handy. Otherwise, I'll show you another day. But you could tell from the picture because she's looking up and you're like, we're 22 floors. And I would go over and look and you'd see she's looking right at the apartment next door. Thank you, Ernie. 1 second, because it just so cracked me up when she did this. But hang on, let me get places. New York. I probably have way too many in New York, though. We'll do a quick look anyway. Quick look here. I don't think I'm going to have any handy. Nah, I'm probably not. It's going to, yeah, it'll be too hard for me to find it now. But it's a very funny picture, like I said, of Sasha just looking up and out the window in New York. And it's just the funniest damn thing, you know? I could try, let me try that really quick. Sasha in New York. See if my iPhone's AI is good enough for that. No, it's not. iPhone, we're not there yet. Okay, well, too bad. Too bad. Anyway, it's very funny watching her. Just gets pissed off because she's a dog and the neighbor has the audacity to exist within view of my apartment, which means, you know. TikTok getting banned. Yeah, I've been wanting to look into that more. I was watching a report on it today. I mean, okay, the current legislation is in the House of Representatives, or it just passed the House of Representatives. I know, she's still got very good vision, which is good. For it to become a law. So this is House of Representatives passing legislation requiring TikTok to sell its American subsidiary or be banned in America. Couple things here. One, for it to become law, it has to pass the U.S. Senate as well. Not clear if it will. Maybe it will, but it's more difficult to pass things in the Senate. It's easier for a minority of senators, or even one senator, to block it. They might. Then you'd have to have President Biden sign it. Will he sign it? I don't know, right? Then it would be challenged in court by TikTok, certainly, but also the ACLU even came out, which is our big civil liberties organization here in the U.S. And hi, you're okay. You're all right. She's just making noise. I don't know what she's doing. But the ACLU came out and opposed it because of free speech grounds. There's a whole free speech issue of basically companies have free speech in America too. And can you tell a company that you're going to ban them because I guess you don't like the nationality of the country that owns them? Anyway, it's a very interesting question. I know Twitch. Well, if they block me on TikTok, it's pretty bad because TikTok is most of my income. It actually is. Yeah. So that would be pretty bad. Yeah. Even when TikTok plays games like they did 2 weeks ago and killed them, the money's back, by the way, thank God. So thank you guys for helping. But I still need your gifts because the money that TikTok pays on the videos it's not enough to pay my bills, but it's still significant. Twitch wasn't good enough. Twitch, we tried for a while, guys, with Twitch. I can still try again. But we tried Twitch, but I wasn't getting enough viewers. So Twitch, I was pulling in like $25 or $50 a month, but I was having to do my own show on Twitch. Twitch wasn't allowing. Check on this, guys, if somebody can. Thank you, Lotus. I was calling you Loris without my glasses. Lotus, thank you. Incredibly tired. Twitch at least had a rule that said your videos have to be unique to Twitch. So right now, for example, I'm doing TikTok on my iPad, but I'm also talking to YouTube over on my computer at the same time. I've got both going. Twitch's rules said you can't do that. It has to be a 100% original show for Twitch. So I was doing a Saturday show on Twitch, but it just wasn't getting big enough. Thank you, Roxy. It just wasn't worth it, you know? It just wasn't worth it. And it was like literally $25 a month, and I was just like, I couldn't. But anyways, I would consider it again. Who knows? I can add videos of Sasha. What do you mean? Elon should be investigated. Big Hawk's asking, do you see Elon Musk being investigated for Starlink being used by the Russians on the front line? It should be. I mean, so the accusation the Ukrainians put out there was that the Russians were basically getting around sanctions and things by, I don't know whether it was just sanctions or getting around Elon Musk claiming he wasn't going to sell Starlink internet to the Russians for them to use in Ukraine in the war. And the Ukrainians found evidence saying, yeah, they are. They are. I don't know what that sentence means. Big Hawk. Too many, there's like a he in there. I don't know what you're talking about. But in any case, so I'm trying to read the comments and keep talking. Oh, Elon. So if Congress were functioning right, they would investigate Elon and find out what the hell's going on. I guarantee you, Democrats are afraid to investigate Elon because Elon's become a big Trumper. Now, he's pretending he's not, but he is. He's crazy. He's become MAGA. Not just MAGA. Elon's also a little crazy. He's a little crazy. I mean, as far as that goes. But he's also gone kind of MAGA, and Democrats probably don't want to investigate him because they don't want to piss him off. And then Elon's 200 billions start going to helping the Republican Party. So Yet another way that money corrupts in politics, Thank you, world. Thank you, Mama Jill. Thank you. Who is that with the join my team? Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry, with a couple of you. I want to make sure I didn't sort of miss any of you. Roxy for the baseball cap. I think I got you guys here. Okay, I think I got you guys. You know what? I did check out Kik. I don't know Kik. I went and created an account, but I don't know Kik. So I've got to kind of figure out what the deal is there. But I did check it out when you guys recommended it, but I don't know it. So I'm a little kind of like, I'm not sure what to do with it. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Jonathan. But we'll see. Remember, I was saying I need one of you guys to give me tech advice because I wouldn't mind trying to, thank you, Aubrey, trying to stream to multiple sites again besides just TikTok and YouTube. But I was previously doing it. Thank you, Robert. Oh, hey, Robert. Robert's our dino buddy, and Robert LaCroix as well. I was streaming before to multiple sites via StreamYard, and the quality sucked. So I stopped. The quality was terrible. So now for TikTok has to be TikTok, but for the other guys, I use OBS, which has been much higher quality streaming. So I would have to find something that can do, multiple feeds and be actually good quality. Good quality. I don't know how to do it. I'm just saying I have no clue how I can stream to multiple places. So I need somebody's technical help. Maybe I'll see what Syndicate's doing. He's been busy with his new wife and new baby coming soon. And if you who remember Syndicate, our wonderful tech guy, he's got a baby coming this summer, so very exciting. So he hasn't been with us as much. He's got a family, or a bigger family now, so understandable, but we still miss him. How long can Ukraine hold the front line? I guess it depends what the front line is, right? The front line is already collapsing a little. We're seeing Russia move forward, right? I mean, so that's happening already. Beyond that, I'm certainly getting worried by the French, by Macron, who seems very worried about what's coming next in Ukraine. Ukraine is a victim. They're a victim of Russian genocide and hegemony and imperialism, just as the Russians have been doing for hundreds of years to all of their neighbors. So you are correct. Sword for Justice. What are your thoughts on Orban meeting Trump? I know Viktor Orban, the Hungarian wannabe dictator, is going to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's little resort, this week to meet with him. I think it was going to be today, I thought, but it's this week. And no actual U.S. government officials going to be there, of course. Yeah, Trump is having a little meeting of the dictators. One of his ministers already gave a statement a couple days ago trying to help get Trump elected. It's really creepy. The Republican Party under Trump, because Trump sucks up to dictators and Putin, and it's the Putin connection, really. Because Trump and Putin, there's something wrong with Trump with regards to Putin, and Putin owns him for however, whether, again, corruptly or something. Trump actually several years ago decided, and the Republicans with him, that they would suck up to Putin's cronies in Europe, including Orban in Hungary. Orban in Hungary is a wannabe dictator, basically. I look at him in the mold of the old Soviet, the Warsaw Bloc dictators, the guys who ran Hungary and Eastern Europe under the Soviets. And the Republicans have sucked up to Orban. Orban is a huge Putin fan. He hates Ukraine. He hates NATO. He hates the European Union. Look, in a different world, Orban would be an Eastern European dictator, in my view. I think he would be. And therefore, Trump loves him. And honestly, Trump loves him probably because Putin gave Trump orders to love him. At this point, there's something going on with Trump and Putin. We don't know what it is, but we should just accept things at face value, right? Putin has told Trump to be friends with Orban, and he is. So it's part of just the ongoing creepiness of all people. He's picked up basically some far-right dictator wannabe as Trump's best friend in Europe. It's sick. But, Orban's not stupid. If he can be Trump's best friend, more power to him from Orban's perspective. But from Trump's perspective, it's sick. It's absolutely. Can Trump take the U.S. out of NATO? Hard to say. Congress passed a law that said he can't. The president can't do it unilaterally. The problem is, define taking out of NATO, right? Let's pretend Trump is president. Let's pretend the law says Trump himself isn't allowed to say America is no longer a member of NATO. Okay, but Trump's the commander-in-chief. Russia invades Estonia and Poland, and Trump goes, okay, I'm commander-in-chief. We're not sending troops. We're still in NATO. The law says I can't pull out of NATO. Okay, I won't pull out of NATO. But Europe, you're on your own. I'm not sending troops. So do you get the problem? So like, even if Trump can't pull out of NATO, Trump, with a snap of his fingers, can choose not to help any of you guys. So it's bad. It's very bad. I mean, it's very bad. You know? Yeah, Congress declares war. The Senate actually declares war, but it doesn't matter because we haven't declared war in a very long time. Declaring war just doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't matter. I mean, same thing. If the Senate declares war, Trump's commander-in-chief of the military. Trump goes, okay, you declared war on Russia. That's nice. We're not sending troops. And the troops don't go. It's, you know, you'd have to have the American people, but Trump's Republicans will get in line because they sadly always do with Trump on this stuff. You know, we could have war in Europe, and this time the Americans actually do sit it out. It's scary, very scary. You know, Trump would do it, yeah, because he's crazy and he's corrupt. I mean, again, Vladimir Putin offers you $1 billion in a bank account in the Seychelles and you're Donald Trump and says all you have to do is sit back when I invade Europe. And Trump goes, okie dokie. I mean, quite literally, that's all that has to happen. Trump doesn't care. I think he absolutely is capable. And the thing is, he's also absolutely capable of effing Israel over too, which the Israelis better realize too. This guy is one bribe away from letting you sink into the sea. I mean, he doesn't care about any issue. He cares about himself, and usually money is the thing that he cares about. So like, there is no issue. Nobody should trust America's word anymore because of Trump and the Republicans. Democrats, you can trust their word, but the Republicans, because now the Republicans are Trump at the federal level, they're Trump. You can't trust any of their words, which I think also means Israel. I think Israel's, and frankly, Arab world too. None of you are safe if you've got an America that can just go boop on any promise. No commitment matters anymore. You know? NATO can't do anything about it, Mel. I mean, Mel's asking, could NATO do anything about it? What are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? All NATO can do is what Macron is doing. Macron in France is trying to fill the vacuum by becoming the military leader of Europe. It's a little weird, but somebody's doing it. I would prefer if the Brits did it, but the Brits pulled out of the EU. Oops, that was a big mistake, right? So if you're talking about Europe, what do you have left in terms of who can be the military leader of Europe? I mean, there aren't a lot of choices. You know, France is a little weird. Germany's, you know, yeah, but you could trust America's word. This is about nation states. You could trust America's word and America's commitment. You can't anymore under Trump. He's made clear that any commitment, he doesn't care. So this isn't like some people you can't trust. This is about Donald Trump. He's made clear you cannot trust his word and you cannot trust America's word. He's vowed to pull out of our commitments. That is, no Democrat has ever done that. No Republican has ever done that. This is Trump. This isn't even Republicans. I mean, it's Republicans now because y'all embraced the man. I don't know why, but you know, you all formed a suicide pact with the guy. Poland, but same thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm really not sure like who takes the lead in Europe. The Brits maybe could have, you know. It's sad. It's sad. Yeah, the Brexit thing. That was a brilliant move by the Brits, but you know, maybe, but I don't know. I still think you had more consistency with Republicans and Democrats in terms of foreign policy. That are NATO, for example, NATO. I think you could have trusted both Republicans and Democrats' commitment to NATO. Thank you, Taylor. In terms of a Russian invasion. Under Trump, you absolutely cannot. Trust the man at his word. You cannot trust that we will be there to help Europe. He's already urged Putin to invade, right? That's a change. Under previous Republicans, I think absolutely positively there was no threat of Republicans ignoring NATO if Russia invaded. I think you absolutely could trust their word. Now you can't. I think that big change right there, you know? Anyway, I got a Brexit conversation going. That's funny. That's funny. Oh, I'm sure the Brits should get back in. What a mess that. And of course, the Russians helped on Brexit too. What a big surprise that was. You know? Yes, the UK is still in NATO. Yeah, but this is sort of an EU thing. Well, yes, but this is sort of an EU thing. I don't know. Well, that's a good question. That's a good point. That's a good point from Nordic, saying that Britain is still a member of NATO. You know, while France may be using the EU to become the European leader, maybe the Brits should try to use NATO to become the European leader. Maybe. You know? That's interesting. Maybe. Yeah, Drizzle, before the mods give you a timeout for the next day, because you are a troll. I've talked about this before, that one thing, sadly, that the Trump people, very much like the Russians, actually, they're very good at disinformation and accusing you of what they do. And Dizzle just put up because we're talking about Donald Trump Donald Trump literally told Putin to invade NATO. When you point that out, the Trump supporters respond and call it Trump derangement syndrome. So he just goes, that's Trump derangement syndrome. Again, I'm actually literally thinking you are a Russian, because that was like a Russian troll talking point where they read something off a page that doesn't make sense. I'm literally telling you something Donald Trump said a month ago. You can't call that Trump derangement syndrome when it's something Trump said a month ago. This also goes hand in hand with something Trump supporters do. I think they're actually embarrassed of Trump, which is why, like, that guy wrote that. And they try to say, Trump doesn't run the Republic. He's not president anymore. Why do you keep talking about him? He doesn't have any power. And you're like, really? Trump doesn't have any power in the Republican Party? What rock are you living under? Trump literally runs the Republican Party. Trump literally told the Republican Party to kill the border security bill, to fix the problem with the border in Mexico, and they killed the bill because Trump told them to. Because Trump needs the border to be a mess for his election. Trump told the Republicans to kill aid to Ukraine, and they killed it. The man his daughter-in-law is the new head of the Republican Party in Washington. He's appointed his daughter-in-law to be the new head. I mean, it's just, anyway, you get it. But as I said, I think it's important to point these things out because it's the lies that people put out there, and we shouldn't let them go uncontested. So yes, there's a reason people talk about Donald Trump, because he does run one of the two political parties in our country. Yes. What chance? Trump's got a 50-50 chance of winning. Absolutely does. Absolutely does. The penalty for treason is death, but you got to be at war, and we're not at war, so nobody has committed treason. Harvey, good to see you, and thank you. As UK politics is looking currently, there is a high possibility of a landslide election for the Labour Party later this year. I was seeing that. So within time, there is a possibility of rejoining the EU. Okay, now that's very interesting. So I was seeing this. Callum has been pointing this out to me, that the left-wing opposition, Labour, right, versus the Tories, I guess, who are in power now, are doing very well in the polls, and there could be an election in a few months where basically the left takes over the British government. And he's saying a possibility of rejoining the EU. Does anybody really think that's but is that really, thank you, Jay, for the gift. Does anybody really think that's a possibility, though? I mean, is that actually something people talk about? Like, oh yeah, like politically, could they do that? Or is it way too crazy of a, I feel like that's way too crazy of a thing. Prince is saying no chance. You know? Man, I don't know. I don't know your politics enough to say that. But I would think there would have to be a groundswell of people saying huge mistake. Yeah, well, exactly. Jeff is saying maybe another referendum. Yeah. But you would need sort of a groundswell of support for it, I would think. You know? Young people, but if Snowblade's mentioning Brits under 40, the only thing is that also makes me wonder whether, do you have to wait 10? How many years has it been now? 3 years? 4 years? What's it been? Was Brexit 18? Was it that long ago? When was it? But you might need 2016? Was it that long? No way. It's been 8 years already? Wow. Well, if it's been 8 years already, I could see 10 years being a point where you do another referendum, potentially. But the problem is you want the numbers strong. First of all, the referendum should have been a super referendum. It shouldn't have been, what was it, like 51%? I mean, it was something crazy that you guys had about turning it around, which was a little nuts, That's interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for the gift. Are the Baltic states in danger? You're in more danger than you were 2 years ago. I think that's true. I think not only has Russia shown us who they are, I think Russia has changed. I still think, I mean, Yulia the other day was on the show, this Ukrainian, now journalist, I guess, but Ukrainian expert, Ukrainian herself, and was talking, when I was saying that Russia has become the Soviet Union again, Yulia was saying they never stopped being the Soviet Union. I still feel like things have gotten worse in the last couple of years. Like, I'm not entirely sure Russia was still the Soviets, 20 years ago. Now they're definitely the Soviets again. And I think the last 2 years with Ukraine, whether they've gone nuts or something, I mean, again, they're clearly insecure. I mean, Russia created the conditions where the whole world turned on them, because by invading Ukraine, and because the whole world turned on them, they've become paranoid. And now they're like, oh my God, the whole world hates us. We are going to become even more Russian, and we're going to become even more brutal, and we're going to threaten our neighbors, and we're going to threaten nuclear war every 3 days. So I feel like they've gotten, hi, I'm busy right now, but thank you. I feel like they've gotten crazier, and that worries me with regards to the Baltic countries. It also worries me because of Trump saying that he's not going to defend NATO if you get invaded. And that worries me because I am not convinced America will be there to defend you if the Russians invade. And by the way, that is a great way to convince the Russians to invade. And Democrats being Democrats don't talk about any of this because they suck at messaging. But somebody should have been out there, Biden should have been out there saying, this guy's going to get us into World War III. When Trump said that, he should have said, this guy's going to get us into World War III. The best way to ensure that we go to war with Russia is tell Russia that we're not going to be there for NATO. And, by the way, urge Russia to literally invade Europe. But that's the best way to get Russia to start World War III, is tell them America won't be there, because the Russians sit there and go, well, Europe's strong, but maybe without America, maybe we could get the Baltic states back. Maybe we could get part of Poland. Maybe we could get all of Ukraine and Moldova. So we're on the border of Romania there. Maybe. No, there's no way to get through to these people. There's just no way to get through to them. Democrats are like congenitally, unable to message. They just can't. They suck at it. I don't know why. It's really bad. I don't know well, it happens to Trump and MAGA if he loses. Good question. I mean, honestly, I think Trump would have to literally blow up all of Congress or something before anybody turns on him. So I'm not convinced there's going to be any Trump loses and, well, first of all, Trump loses and he's going to have his people riot again. Trump will have an even more sophisticated effort to steal the election this time. He will. And the Republicans are going to support him again. And you're going to have the chance of violence this time, I think, with this election, if Trump loses. So won't that be fun, kids? So, because they've made that clear. That's what he believes in. So very scary stuff. Very scary. I know. I feel that way. I mean, obviously I feel that way too, Dennis, but I was a Republican once too. And I know Republicans like you. I don't know that there's enough of them. No, Dennis just wrote that I'm a Republican, but I want Trump to go away. I agree. I mean, that's why I said, Nikki Haley, way too conservative for me, but she's normal. I mean, she's not corrupt and she's not crazy. She doesn't love America's enemies. She actually loves America. She didn't call our troops suckers and losers. She doesn't suck up to Vladimir Putin, But it's just sorry, more water for dog. You really don't get thirsty until I do the show. Is that how this works? I kind of feel like this is how it works. I really do. Anyway. Too funny. Anyway. He's going to incite something. Yeah, he's going to try to incite violence if he loses. Yes. And honestly, I just don't know what the alternative is at this point. I mean, I almost feel like, is that what Republicans need to learn that violence is bad and Trump is crazy and Trump is dangerous? Do they need? I mean, last time they were trying to literally lynch Mike Pence. Did they need to have caught him last time and hurt him? Would that have been necessary for Republicans to go, gosh, maybe these weren't just tourists? People are still defending these idiots from January 6th. Republicans are still defending them. Trump says he's going to pardon them. He's going to give them all pardons because he calls them hostages. All the terrorists who invaded our capital on that day, they're hostages. I really think they're going to have to kill. They're going to have to kill like large numbers of members of Congress before maybe some Republicans in this country go. Some of you are normal, but it's very few of you. Before like elected officials go, yeah, maybe this isn't a good thing. It's a cult, guys. It's not just a cult. This is how authoritarian governments start. This is how they get in. We now have witnessed it. This is how they get into power. You know? I don't think it would be enough, Kyle. I really don't. This is how dictators come to power. And we are witnessing it. It happens with somebody with a strong enough whatever like Trump, cult of personality, exactly, blue sky, and weak-willed people. And what we've seen is not just Americans. I think human beings are weak-willed. They're prone to embrace dictators. Republicans clearly are. I bet you Democrats would too. If the Democrats on the left certainly would. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's a craziness on the far left that I think is violent. I think we've seen it recently with a lot of their protests. There's a violence in that movement. It's a hate and a violence that's there that was certainly not in the civil rights movement. When you looked at America's civil rights movement for blacks in the 1960s, you didn't see hate and violence. You're seeing hate and violence on the far left now. But they don't run the Democratic Party. On the Republican side, they do. But there is clearly a predilection among, I think, a lot of people to embracing sort of hate and violence and dictators. It's very scary. It's very scary. I don't know, Andrew. I didn't censor you, but if you're doing something bad, they will. Just don't do anything bad. Anyway, oh boy. I hate getting into these discussions because it's so depressing, So depressing. Anyway. I doubt it, Alexi. I doubt it. I don't know. That's a funny question. I don't know. Alexi's asking if you'd be like a Canadian born in Ukraine, would you be drafted? Some countries do that. My uncle had that happen in Greece. He was born in Greece, moved to the U.S. when he was 6 years old, and was back in Greece during the military junta, and they tried to draft him. Thank you, Kyle. And it was like, the guy'd been in America for 30 years. He moved when he was 6 years old, and the Greeks tried to draft him. So, it was a military dictatorship, of course, big surprise. But, you never know. I don't know. If you're being serious, it's the kind of thing I'd look into before I went there. Aaron says this college roommate had that happen with Singapore. Yeah, it's the kind of thing I definitely would look at before I went to Ukraine. If they see you as a Ukrainian citizen, they're going to say, yeah, what are you doing? You should be fighting. Anyway. All right, guys. We've been an hour and 23 minutes. I think I'm going to call it quits. All right. So let's wrap up. I will see you. It's Thursday already. Wow. Okay. Friday. So Saturday morning, remember, we do our coffee talk on TikTok and Discord. It's for our monthly subscribers on TikTok, the folks that have SNN after the name, like Chezak and Webb and some of the others there. Thank you, Aaron, for the gift. So join us, anybody who's a monthly subscriber, or if you want to become one, please do. It helps support my work. But the monthly subscribers on TikTok and YouTube, I will be here 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S., Saturday morning on TikTok for the TikTok folks. And everybody else, Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Ko-fi, anybody subscribing on those 4 services monthly, join us on Discord. You'll see the event is already set up on Discord. But please do join us. It's a fun Vlad usually joins us. Not a promise, but he usually does. Thank you, Spagmump. There you go. Otherwise, tomorrow, back 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. tomorrow. So join us for them. So I will see you guys, and have a good night. All right. See you all. Have a very good night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everybody. Burp. All right. Let me get my little push the button. There we go.